Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, guys.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is lovely to have you all with us this evening as we celebrate Shabbat and as we celebrate as Abby is about to become bat mitzvah, which is incredibly hard to believe, and I don't really know how we got here, and yet here we are. So there have been lots of things to celebrate lately, you know? You got to watch Lizzie on stage last week, and now you get to see Abby on the Bima this week. Your recital, silly goose. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that old thing. So I'm glad that there is lots of celebrating to go around. And we are going to dive right in as we turn to page 5 for Shalom Aleichem. And I'd like to invite Abby to come on up to the Bima to help lead us in these words. And we sing this every week. Some folks actually have a tradition of singing Shalom Aleichem around their Shabbat table. So, you know, when we think about the rituals that we have at home, maybe we're lighting candles and kind of then gathering around a table. And this is often one of the melodies that we sing kind of in that moment. But it's also a beautiful way to start our service. And as we say these words, what we're saying is, you know, kind of offering blessings and of welcome into our space and into Shabbat. We pray that, you know, blessings are brought and received as we move through Shabbat, and then we say farewell when it's time to go. And I think that these words end up kind of serving as a reminder that Shabbat especially is a time that it's not good to be alone. That it is beautiful to be able to come together with friends and family, and maybe it's a reminder to kind of reach out and put those invitations and feelers out into the world so that we are then really truly living these words each week when we sing them. So we'll continue on the middle of page 5.
Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nin leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzechem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Thank you, Abby. We continue on page 10 with Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh HaVarachaman Mishoch Avdach El Ritzonach Yarutz Avdach Imo Aya Yishtachaveh Mul Hadarach Ya'erab Lo Yedidutach Minofet Zuf V'chotam Aduna Eziv Haolam Nafshi Cholat Ahavatach Anna Elna Refana Beharot La Noam Zivach Az Titchazek V'Titrapeh B'Hayetalach Shivchad Olam Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai 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 Dai Dai Dai
We continue on page 11 at the top of the page with the beginning of Psalm 95. And the Psalms of Shabbat are meant to kind of help to settle us into Shabbat, to really be ready to receive the peace and the light of Shabbat, and also to be able to kind of let go of whatever the difficult moments or busyness of the week might have been, so that we can make space for that joy and for that peace. And so hopefully as we move through some of these Psalms, it will allow you to take a breath. You've arrived, things are dropped off, kippot are made, marshmallows are stuffed, everything is done, and so now we really get to just be.
Lech l'Adonai l'Adonai Nariya l'Tzoyishenu Lech l'Adonai l'Adonai Nariya l'Tzoyishenu Nekadma fana betoda Bizmirot Nariya lo Nekadma Betoda Bizmirot Narialo.
As we turn to page 14, I want to invite everyone to take a moment to think back on this week that has passed, which was surely filled with lots of details and all sorts of plans to get ready for this weekend. And I hope that it was also filled, well, one, I hope that those moments brought joy to you, even as difficult as they were perhaps sometimes. But I also want to invite you to think about the moments this week that were perhaps particularly joyful, or evoked gratitude in you, or the blessings that you had in your lives. And I want to invite you to take a moment to notice those moments. Notice moments. Because I think that's what Shabbat is really about. And especially as we come into Kabbalat Shabbat, it is an opportunity each and every week to press pause. So even with everything else that we might have going on, even with the to-do list or homework or tests or projects or whatever else, emails unread, that are still sitting there, that will be there whenever we're after done, Shabbat, it will be there later. They're not going anywhere, sadly. I wish they would disappear, but they don't. But for now we can pause, and we can just appreciate where we are. So I want to ask all of you if there was anything special from this week, something joyful, something that brought blessing to you, that you might wish to share with the rest of us so that we can share in that joy and blessing with you.
Certainly, we had a lot to do,
Yes.
and there were a lot of challenges in accomplishing those goals.
Yes.
And we persevered,
Yeah.
and we got it done. It's frustrating, right? But we accomplished,
Yeah.
right? And it's here.
And it's here. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what a beautiful thing too. Like when we think about something like becoming bar bat mitzvah, we're often very focused on the service, or at least we are very focused on the service and the student and everything that they're doing to prepare. But obviously, especially as you're planning a celebration to go along with that, it's not only on the student, it's on everyone. And so to be able to find ways to come together as a unit in those moments, even as difficult and stressful as I'm sure some of those moments along the way were, to be able to do that and to say, like, look what we accomplished, that's actually a really an amazing experience to have, and God willing that you'll get to have again, not just many years from now when Lizzie's standing up here, but at other moments when you have challenges that come to your family in life.
Very easy to get bogged down because of the challenge.
Exactly.
And not celebrate the good.
Exactly.
Wait, there's more than just the service?
There is. And I feel like that ties in really well with Abby's Devar Torah. So, it's a theme of the weekend, perhaps. Anyone else want to share something special from their week?
Listen, I'm just glad I can breathe.
I know.
You guys heard my struggle this week.
I know. I mean, seriously, that, we were just talking about that there are, we have so many prayers, and I was with a group earlier this week also where we were talking about some of the different prayers that we have in our liturgy, and that it is easy to take for granted the ways in which we wake up each day, God willing, feel fine, can move our bodies, have the basic needs that we require met. And when all of that is good, most of the time, I will speak for myself, it is very easy to take it for granted. Only when something is challenged, it's like we hurt something in our body, or we can't go outside and breathe fresh air without smelling like a campfire and possibly hacking. When those moments come, all of a sudden we realize, how good it was. So, like, my daughter had an end-of-year pool party for her grade today, and it was my first time going outside all week. And it was so glorious to feel the sun and to sit outside chatting with other parents and watch the kids play and not be fearing for our safety. And it was such a blessing. Like, who knew that's like something that we should actually be grateful for every single day. And yet there we were all week long in this veil of smoke from Canada. Yeah, Lizzie.
We weren't allowed to have outdoor recess where Brett said I get to go on code book.
You got to go on what?
Code book to Apple my iPad.
Oh, nice.
She's an iPad kid.
Yeah.
I love my iPad.
Yeah, I know. Many are. So I know no one was allowed to play outside. Here at BTBJ, we had moon bounces set up in the social hall all week for the kids to play because it wasn't safe to be outside. So I'm glad that you enjoyed some of the inside activities, even though you didn't get your regular recess.
And we got to play with the jukebox just because they were out.
Oh, well, that's fun too.
I only played with them once and I'm like, hey. I learned a new game this week, the candy game.
Oh, well, that's also good. You'll have to come back to that next week and teach some others.
No, the entire class learned.
Well, that's good. Well, I will share that it was a particularly joyful and sad, bittersweet moment when my children finished kindergarten and 4th grade this week. And so I loved both of their teachers so much. And so I think I am having more feelings than my kids are about saying goodbye to those grades, because the teacher is everything. And when you have a good one, it is life-changing. So thank you, teachers, for all you do. It is pretty awesome. I know, teachers. I know, it's really awesome. And so it is. I'm grateful for. As I think about what I'm grateful for, I'm really grateful for the way that they made that experience for each of my kids really joyful. And I feel like both of the teachers really saw them and understood them, and were able to work with them through whatever might have been challenging for each of them, which was, they're very different humans, but they were able to support them in the ways that they needed to be, and I feel like you can really see the growth in each of them. So teachers, you're amazing, and keep up the good work. So I invite you to continue to think about all of the things that you might be grateful for or feeling joy about, and it's not just for this week. Like, let that be a practice that you have every Friday. You know, whether you light candles or say kiddush or eat challah or you're going off to the movies or eating pizza or going out with friends, you could still take a moment and like share with your loved ones something that was really awesome from the week or something that you're grateful for, even if you do it like before bed when you're saying goodnight. It's a really good practice to start. We're going to continue with the red arrow on page 14.
Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tayeh haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tayeh haaretz. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, umelo. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, umelo.
We turn now to page 23, and I want to invite Abby back up to the bima as we are moving into L'chadodi, where we symbolically welcome Shabbat as if Shabbat were as loved and anticipated as welcoming a bride or a queen into our midst.
Lehadodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lehadodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet u'litchila. Lecha dodi, dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi makor habracha, Merosh mikedem nisucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi, dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, Pumitza'ir mitoch ha'hafecha, Rav lach shevet ba'emek habacha, Vehu yachmo alaychem la. Lecha dodi, dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We turn to page 25 and continue at the second verse.
Yamin usmo tifrotzi, V'et Adonai taritzi, Al yad ish ben partzi, V'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha
dodi,
dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We rise and face the door for those who are comfortable and able to do so as we move into our final verse.
Bo'ii v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'sohola, Toch emunei am segula, Bo'ii chala, bo'ii chala. Lecha
dodi,
dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela.
You may be seated. We turn to page 27 for the Psalm for Shabbat.
Mizmor shel yom HaShabbat tov lahados l'Adonai el zemer shem v'hayon v'hayon v'zvagor
We'll pick up together on page 28 of the red arrow.
Tzadik atamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizgesh etulim baved Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yiyun lehayin yashar Adonai Turi velo avlatamo.
We turn ahead now to page 39 as we officially move into our evening or Mariv service, which it seems like it's about the right time as we can see the darkness coming upon us in this hour. And so I'll invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so as we join together for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam
You
va'ed.
may be seated.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach Ma'avir yom v'mi layla, ma'av yom v'mi layla, Adonai tzava'ot shemo, chai v'kayam tamidim l'och ha'leila le'la va'ed, Baruch Adonai hamari v'aravim.
Amen. We continue on the top of page 40.
Ahavat olam bet Yisrael amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, uvahem neye, yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. Mi'avatcha, t'zirem meru le'lamim, Baruch Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen. We turn to page 41 and invite Abby back up to the bima to help lead us in Shema V'Ahavta.
Shema
Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha,
V'hayu
הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
We continue silently on page 42.
Wow.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
We turn to page 44 as we get ready to move into the words of Michamocha.
ומלכותו ברצון גבוליהם, משה ורעיו בני ישראל לכל אשר בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא דהי לא נוסף אלה מלכותך ברובנך בוקעים לפני משה זהו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד רמה יבדל את יעקב וגולם יחזק ממנו ברוך את אדוני גאל ישראל.
We turn to page 45 for Hashkivenu, which is our evening prayer for peace and protection. Sometimes nighttime or darkness can be a little scary, and that was true for our rabbis as well. And so even more so at a time before there was electricity. And so there was this blessing that they would say every single night. And we pray as we lie down to sleep that we will sleep peacefully. Think about how important a good night's sleep is. Sorry, Benjamin, you should appreciate those for the next few months. You might not get them after that. But how nice it is to sleep peacefully. How refreshed we feel in the morning then when we wake up after that. And so each night we have this prayer. It's that, God willing, we should sleep peacefully. We should awaken to a new day. And then we also pray to God, that God will spread this canopy of peace over us and over the entire world. And that with that canopy, that we will kind of feel that, like looking at your Uncle John with his arm around Lizzie, that kind of like having that that hug around you in the world to really protect you and to help you feel safe. And whatever that it is that might be going on, that sometimes just there's like little gestures that, a small look or a small touch or a kind word that can help you to feel that kind of safety and security and that things will be okay. And so this is what we're praying for with these words. And so as we sing together these words, we pray that all of those who might be in need of a little bit of that safety, a little bit of that peace and security in the world can find it. We pray that the wildfires are at bay or healed and don't come back, both for the sake of Canada and apparently all of North America, and probably for our climate and atmosphere in general. And that all of those who were suffering this week especially can find the healing and the wholeness that they need to be able to continue to move through and get better and have that kind of peace, in their physical bodies as well.
Ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shelomecha, ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shelomecha. Baruch Adonai, havarei sukkah shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Yerushalayim.
Amen. We turn to page 46, and I invite Abby to come back up to the bima to help lead us in Vishamru.
Enough with the Harry Potter spell jokes.
Oh, come on. I have to entertain myself somehow. Ready?
Vishamru
V'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat Lidorotam Beritolam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam Oti leolam Oti leolam Vishamru V'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat Lidorotam Beritolam Ishesh yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat
לדורותם ברית עולם.
וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ביום דברה קירתי וימליך מלכותי.
בחייכון וביומכון
ובחיי דכל בית ישראל.
ישראל, בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן הריב, אמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשן
ברכו.
לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה.
תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירה מעלמה.
ואמרו
Amen. We turn to page 47 now for our evening Amidah. And so I'll invite you to rise if you are comfortable and able to do so. And we move through our Amidah silently. And so I invite you to move through from pages 47 to 52 with the words in Hebrew or in English at your own pace. And this is also a wonderful moment for just some quiet reflection as well.
Say shalom yemramav, say shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Say shalom, say shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, say shalom, say shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
We continue on page 53 with our repetition of our Amidah, and I invite you to rise again if you're comfortable and able to do so.
Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi'i Miklachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi'i, mikol melachto asher asa, vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i, vayekadesh oto, Ivo Shabbat mikol melachto, asher bara Elohim לעשות. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'lo avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sahara, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Ha'yibor v'hanora, El Elyon Konei Shamayim v'aretz. Magen Avod bidvaro, Mechaye Metim b'mamaro, Ha'el Hagadol she'en kamohu, Haminiach le'amo b'yom Shabbat kodsho. Hivam ratza lehaniach lahem, Hivam ratza lehaniach vahem, Lefanav navod b'yira ufachad, V'nodeh lishmo b'chol yom tamid, V'hod bebrachot. El haodaot Adon HaShalom, Miyadesh HaShabbat, Umevarach Shemi, Umeniach Mikdusha, Le'am Mikdushe Oneg, Zecher Lemase Bereshit.
Page 54.
Eloheinu v'Avotenu v'Imotenu ritzei b'mnuchatenu, kadshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chalkenu b'toratecha, sabeinu mituvecha, v'samechenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libeinu li'avdecha b'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'yahava u'bratzon, Shabbat kodshecha, v'yinuchu v'Yisrael, Mekadeshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Yadav Yigdash Merabah, Yamani Vachar Tevin Lichmachu Tevin, Chayechonu V'yemechonu, Chayechonu B'Yisrael, Bagalas Megari Vimru, Amen, Yehesh Merabah Mevarach, Le'alam Le'amei Amaya, Yitbarach Vich, Tabach Vich, Ba'artram Yinasevit, Adarvit Telev Slash Meru Shabrichu, Le'am Kovrachata V'Shurat Tushbechata V'Nechamata Dam Yaram Yamam Yimru, Amen. Tikabat Salod Honuyu, the Kotako Israel, Kodam Adhoy Shravim Amen. Yeheshal Maram, Amin Shamaya, Bakhaim Kosravim Ru. Amen. Osashal Maram, Fiase Shalom, Alim Al Israel, Kodesh Vavim Ru. Amen.
You may be seated. Before we move into our Kiddush, I want to take a moment to dive into our Parsha of the week. So Abby is going to have a chance tomorrow to teach us a bit about the Parsha and some of the lessons that we can learn from this. And I really want to zoom in on what happens near the end of the Torah portion. Do you remember what happens near the very end? It's not a quiz. Yeah, you don't need to.
Moses' marriage.
What was it?
Is that Moses' marriage to Cushite?
Yes.
It was my Torah portion also. I
Oh
remember
well,
that
so
part.
you're cheating.
That's
and
the part I remember.
So we learn at the end of the parsha and about Moses' wife. But the way that we learn about Moses' wife is not. It could have been like, oh, look at this lovely wedding, and here's the bride, and here's the groom, and let's celebrate them, and all of that. Instead, the way that we learn about her is because Moses' siblings are complaining about her. And so Moses has two siblings, a brother and a sister. The brother's name is Aaron, Aharon. He becomes the high priest. And Miriam is his sister. And so what we learn at the end of your Parsha, Abby, is that the two of them criticized the choice of this particular woman. There's perhaps a number of reasons why. We won't go into that today. But for some reason, they disagreed with his choice. So, and as you know, sometimes siblings argue. Maybe, I don't know if that ever happens in your house. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. Maybe you've experienced this or you know of it from your friends. And so they kind of they're annoyed and they don't agree. And so they go to Moses and complain and criticize. But in that moment, not only are they criticizing his choice of wife, but that ends up kind of becoming like the opening for maybe what was actually bothering them, which is because the next thing that they say is, why does God talk to you but not talk to us? Like, what are we, chopped liver? Like, we're all in this together. Like, Aaron's the high priest, for goodness sake. Like, he has a really important job. Miriam, it turns out, isn't really, like, mentioned as much with, like, at all, women, you know. But what we know from Midrash, or what we believe about Miriam, actually, is she did have some important roles. So one, when the Israelites crossed the sea, we do know from Torah that it was Miriam who led everyone in song and dance as they were finally free. So we know of Miriam there as kind of bringing kind of joy to the community. So maybe she kind of helped them in other moments to maybe look on the bright side or appreciate what they had, and maybe she was a little bit of a cheerleader. But the other thing we know about Miriam is that as long as Miriam lived, there was a well of water that would kind of pop up wherever they were, somewhat magical. And so no matter where they were wandering in the desert, all of the people knew that they would be sustained because they'd have the water. So they were there too. So they come and say, like, come on, like, why is it that God talks to you and not to us? So maybe, like, both of them were really what was on their minds. Or maybe, like, one was maybe more of, like, the opening to the other. Like, I mean, if you think about sometimes maybe, like, you're angry about something, but it kind of comes out in another way. You know, has that ever happened? You know nothing about that, but maybe one day you will, Abby. So, you know, like, I'm sure we've all had that experience where, like, you know, a fight can all of a sudden turn into, like, a whole series of things that, like, maybe are actually bothering us or maybe aren't, or maybe it's been building up. Good to head these things off when they happen so that they don't build up, I guess. That's a lesson that we can learn from that. But, so they come and say, what's going on here? Why do you have this special relationship? So when that happens, it's not just Moses who is the one to kind of react or respond to this particular kind of confrontation with his siblings. But I guess the parent in the room, God, instead kind of rejects this whole thing. And God chastises Miriam and Aharon for coming before Moses in this particular way to criticize one or the other or both of these things, who knows. And also explains that, like, you know, sorry guys, like, Moses is a little bit more special. He's, like, on a higher rung of prophecy, and so, you know, he has a special relationship. Like, he's my favorite, sorry. Again, not things to learn, like, no favorites with your kids, but nevertheless, God does say that to Moses. But then, what we learn is that God gets angry, very angry. And it's not just, like, angry, stop off and, like, cool down God moment. God gets angry, and what happens is that God does actually stomp away and, like, I don't know where God goes, like, slams the door to God's room or something. And in that moment, though, Miriam is then covered in scales. And so we call that Sara'at in Torah. And so if you were at Abby Hayes' bat mitzvah, she talked a lot about Sara'at in her Torah portion. So we learn all about the details of that, of, like, you know, why you have it, how you get it, and how you get rid of it. And so in this moment, it is God, like, whereas in Torah, it's like maybe you're sick or you encounter something, or, like, there's lots of reasons of, like, how you end up, like, afflicted with this. But here, it's like God giving it to Miriam, which is also seemingly problematic, and I don't even know what to do with that. And so when that happens, Aaron turns to Moses and says, like, okay, special guy, like, fix this now. Like, if you have this, like, higher level of connection to God, like, forgive us, forgive her, like, you know, do something about this. And in that moment, Moses kind of cries out. And basically, I mean, what the text says is, Vayitzak Moshe, God, that Moses yelled out, like, Moses yelled to God. Moses yelled to God, Lamor, saying, Elna Refanala. Moses screamed in that moment and said, God, oh my God, please heal her now. And what do you think happened? Lizzie, what do you think?
I know this because everybody told me, so she gets better.
So she gets better. Good. So Moses cries out, and like magic, as she gets better, which is pretty amazing. I mean, if you think about it.
Out of the regular.
It's pretty cool that can happen. So this is one of my favorite pieces of text that we have, because we have think about how much time you have spent, Abby and John. You think about how much time you have spent teaching, like how much time we have spent learning or teaching all of the different words that you've been saying up here today, and all of the different words that you're going to be saying tomorrow. Like, pick this up and see how heavy our Siddur is, and then think about how we have a whole other book that we use on the high holidays that has some of the same prayers and some different prayers. There's some prayers that we only say on holidays. There's some prayers that we only say at special times in our lives. We have so many words that we are taught to say in a very specific way. And like when we read Torah, we have someone standing there to make sure that we're pronouncing the words correctly, because we want to make sure that we're saying them correctly. And so we spend so much time learning how to pray and how to say blessings and how to do all of these things. And in this moment, Moses was not concerned with any particular blessing formula or any particular way to like bring God's presence down. Like Moses didn't go and make a sacrifice. These are all the things that we've learned that we're supposed to do in order to affect change in the world and connect with God, and to to do all of this that we've been reading about for chapters and chapters and chapters. Instead, Moses just kind of calls out in this like deeply feeling, spontaneous prayer to God. Moses, of all people, who maybe like should know all of this because all of these messages are coming through him to the people. He just calls out in spontaneous prayer. And we're reminded from Lizzie that it worked. Yep. So I was saying earlier that, I remember in my Siddur class in rabbinical school learning about kind of the origin of a lot of our different prayers. And, some of them do come from Torah. And, like Micha Mocha, like we sang that's in Torah. The Shema, that's in Torah. Like a lot of our prayers that we say regularly, whether it's during the week or on Shabbat or at other special times, do come from either Torah or from Tanakh. They're Psalms, they're other pieces that the rabbis found meaning in and thought it would be a good idea for us to say on a regular basis, whether for whatever reason, lots of different reasons depending on what it is. And that's really important. But what we also sometimes forget is that before the Siddur was codified, there was a lot more spontaneous prayer in our lives as Jewish people. As we had all of this codification, and we now have these beautiful Siddurim that get reprinted and created anew every few decades or whatever it is, we've lost some of that. And maybe we can see glimpses of this in some of the poetry that we have on the side of our Siddur here. But unfortunately, I think we've lost a lot of that. And so sometimes it could be helpful to be given some words to say, right? Because maybe sometimes you don't know what to say. And we have to learn somewhere about how to be polite or say thank you or what to say to someone who might be sick. Like, we have to learn those things. So maybe we should be thinking about the Siddur as like the beginning and the jumping off point. Or sometimes the really important thing that we need to do, but that we can also learn a little bit from Moses and not forget that it's okay to also have some spontaneity in our lives and in our prayers as well. Because those are the moments that are probably really deeply felt. And we should not feel like in those moments, like, oh, I want to request something or ask for something or just cry out with something, but my words aren't going to be good enough because they're not the words that I'm learning in religious school. But I think we can see here that the words that we learn in religious school are important, and so are these as well. So are the ones that we create. And I guess I will leave you with that question a little bit of, like, what do you think about that? Are there times where maybe one is more important or more appropriate than the other? And also, we kind of know what to do to strengthen ourselves in the fixed prayer, right? We either like experience it, we come to services, we have that, time where we get to have that repetition, we spend time one-on-one with Cantor Benjamin, we come to religious school class, whatever it is, like we know how to learn this stuff. But I guess another question I will leave you with is, what do we have to do to also strengthen the muscles in ourselves that will allow for that spontaneity to be set free? Because I think that we've lost that and we've forgotten how to do that a little bit in our time. But perhaps there is a time and place for that as well, if we can kind of unlock that for ourselves. So I look forward to hearing more of Abby's reflections on some other parts of the Torah tomorrow. And maybe we'll even include these words as our Mishtaberach for healing instead of our traditional words inspired by this moment. So we will move on now, and I want to invite Abby to come on back up to the bima for Kiddush on page 55. And Lizzie, please come up with her. You're our designated drinker. You're like the royal taster. Give it to your sister.
Don't drink it yet.
Yeah, let
Okay.
Abby, two hands. Okay.
Both of you, come this way.
Don't dip your braids in it either.
Either Lizzie carrying something that can stain.
Here, you know what? Why don't I hold it until you're ready, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You
Good
guys
idea.
can't see me. I'm not tall enough.
I can see you.
All right, you lead us in the prayer so then our royal taster can drink.
What?
Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lamikra'e kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim Ivanu v'charta yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha yahava uvratzon hinchatanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
I'm indecisive. Okay. Just tell me to do it.
That was impressive. Most of our B'nai kids can't do that. High five.
Wait, what's that?
You just missed her chugging. She chugged.
All right,
Check
have
when
a
she
seat,
goes to
Lizzie.
college.
We turn to page 56 and rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol lated kedula liotzer breshit shelo asaru k'goyei haratzon velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chalkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad.
You may be seated. We turn to page 58 for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. And this week in our community, we observe the yard sites of Mark Boraski, Charles Braun, Isidore Breckman, Herman Burek, Henrietta Abe Daniel, Albert Elson, Morris Fetter, Liletta Fink, Morris Fishman, Molly Friedman, Gloria Gordon, Jack Greenberg, Amy Kahan, Lester Kaufman, Florence Cobrin, Rose Lewine, Richard Lowenstein, Harry Lowenstein, Mary Matisow, Edith Nieberg, Solomon Isaac Ratsker, Annette Redder, Henry Schwartz, Rebecca Seidenberg, Hyman Scheinberg, and Martin Spivak. I invite those who are in mourning or observing a yard site to please rise as we recite Mourner's Kaddish on page 15. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divra kirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye zechol beit Yisrael v'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah muvarach leolam ulalmei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudasha brichu v'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata miran b'alma v'imru amen. Hey Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who dwell on earth. And we say together, amen. You may be seated. You did it, Abby. One service down. One left to go. You did it. You did it. Oh, just about. So we'll have a closing blessing in just a minute. But hopefully you can breathe a little sigh of relief. And, you know, a lot of the same prayers you're going to do tomorrow. So now you've already done them. Easy peasy.
I got everything done. I just don't want to wait 3 hours.
For the service, it goes fast. It goes faster than you think, especially when it's yours. I mean, I don't know how others feel, but when you're in it, it's a little bit different. It'll be over before you know it.
Nothing against this. I just don't want to sit with it.
No, I hear you. Well, the good news is you are the one person who like really won't be sitting because you'll be coming back up and down the entire time, and you'll have to carry the Torah around the room. So you're going to be like getting a workout.
Just don't fall asleep, Abby.
Yeah, no. So we will come back together tomorrow morning at 9:30. So we look forward to seeing you all then and celebrating. And for those who are joining us at our Hey Class and Kesher Teen trip on Sunday, we are meeting bright and early at 7:30 in the morning to take our bus to DC. It's been fun to have folks sign up at the last minute even in the last couple of days. So it's going to be a full day and a full bus and a whole lot of fun, even as we tackle some really serious topics. Thank you, John, for all of your help planning that, and Cantor Benjamin as well for all of your help in planning that and for really bringing it together. We're really excited to be able to do this again, finally. So we will end this evening on page 75 with a blessing. So every Friday night, it is a tradition for parents to bless their children, and for all of us to be able to have an opportunity to bless our loved ones. So if you want to put your arms around those you love, or otherwise just think about those you love and send them blessings, then please do so as we share this blessing together. May God bless you and protect you. May God's face give light to you and show you favor. May God's face be lifted toward you and bestow upon you peace. May it be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom. See you tomorrow.